I wound up directing it because I started partnering with this production company, film collective of sorts. We're called Onyx Films, and we're an intersectional female-led production company based in LA, although we have remote members all over the place. I think some in Chicago, some in New York. And it's mainly comprised of either people still in college or people just out of college, recent graduates. So it's ushering in this new wave of filmmakers that are still learning, that maybe we don't have a ton of
resources,
money coming in, but we provide that for each other.
We are the
Get Reelisms Podcast.
I am Adam Chase Ready.
And I am Christine Chen, and surprise, both filmmakers.
We get into it by sharing secrets, advice, and gossip in filmmaking.
And we even get our other filmmaking friends to share theirs too.
So please, everybody, join us for
an ode to filmmaking.
Welcome to another episode, ladies and gentlemen, of the Get Reelisms Podcast, episode 159 now. My name is Adam Chase Rennie.
And my name is Christine Chen, and we have a special guest today. So, Hannah, why don't you introduce yourself? What do you do? And basically explain everything to an audience that's never met you before.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Mittermeier, freelance independent writer and director based in Burbank, California. I previously was an assistant to a talent manager, but I just left that job this year so I can commit full time to writing, directing, performing. I like to make music as well. And my directorial debut is going to be screening in LA this month, and I'm very excited. On October 26th, it's my first. I always knew I wanted to write. I always knew I wanted to perform. That was like a given growing up. I didn't really know I would enjoy directing. That was very unexpected. Until I was encouraged, I would say, to take more ownership of this particular story. It's something that's very personal to me, and had a lot of support and had friends that had previously directed giving me little tips and feedback going into it. So I didn't feel like I was just thrown to the wolves, but it was a very cool experience. It was my first time being on set in like a while. I went to Emerson College. I was like film adjacent. I was actually a comedy major. But there was a lot of overlap between that and the film major. So I worked on
real one quick. Look at your main screen, your computer one, instead of the IG one. Just
oh, gotcha.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh yeah, for the podcast.
Yeah, I'm like, oh.
It's okay. We're trained to look at our phones, so it's all good. Exactly. No worries. So you said at Emerson you study comedy writing? What? Sorry, yes. Go again.
Yes. For sure. So at Emerson College, it's still new. I was part of the second graduating class. They had a comedy major, which sort of entailed, you could choose your track as you went along. You could focus on writing, performance, or production. I focused very much on writing with a little bit of performance. Okay. And so that was my little niche, but I had a lot of friends that were film majors. So there was overlap with classes. I got to study a bit of that, not to the full extent that some of my other friends had, but I did have a lot of access to resources, which was awesome. I could be in some student films or help out on set. And then COVID happened as I was getting ready to graduate, so that really derailed. Oh my God, year and a half, I guess, of my college experience. Graduation was from my living room, just watching like on Zoom, basically, in my pajamas. So it was a weird time stepping into the industry because I had been accepted for a study abroad program, which was just in Los Angeles. For those that don't know, Emerson's in Boston. And so I was living there, but then was kicked off campus to live at home during the pandemic outside of Philly. And I like the LA campus that Emerson has, that was going to be my ticket to, a relatively smooth transition. I'll have an internship out here, and then hopefully that'll become a job, and then I'll move out to LA. I'll have a place. I'll know people out here, and all of that. Had to finish everything out at home remotely, which was not the end of the world, but because I wound up here eventually. Took a little longer than I expected, but I am out here now. I'm so happy to be involved in different projects and getting into directing and performing again and starting to put out music. It feels like I took the long way around a little bit to get here, having always had this idea in my head of how I might get here or what that might look like, what that timeline might have looked like. which it was not at all that, but that's okay. And I find that's just what film is.
Yeah, so
Plan
tell us
for
a
it.
little bit about your project, the title of it, when it's premiering, and I would like to know how you navigated into the director's seat.
Of course. So my project is called Happy Saturday. It's just under 20 minutes. It's a nice little short. It's a semi-autobiographical family dramedy, leaning much more towards drama than it does comedy, which is ironic considering I spent however many thousands of dollars to just prove I'm funny and get a certificate that says I'm funny from Emerson. But the log line essentially is that it's a chronicle of the moments and the memories and thought processes leading up to a woman's 22nd birthday. She feels a lot of guilt, survivor's guilt and grief around that age specifically, because that's an age that her older brother didn't live to see. So it's the transition and realization of, oh, I'm older than my older sibling.
Gotcha.
And a weird role reversal and having to cope with that and know that it's okay to keep living on and to still find reasons to celebrate your own life. And so it's pretty heavy, but I love that. I love a juxtaposition of, as with the wordplay in the title, happy, sad, or day. I love taking heavier concepts and themes, whether it's in regards to loss and grief and trauma or mental illness, and trying to make it a little more palatable for people. Because I think generally we're coming around to having healthier, more productive conversations around mental health and mental illness, but I think there's still a little while to go. I think even in our attempts of normalizing it, it's still not quite normalized yet. It feels like a pendulum swinging. It used to be super taboo, then it winds up being almost trendy or maybe like a badge of honor. I'm like, let's get it in the middle. It's just something that people experience. It's been my experience, and so I like to really shed light on that and have art be cathartic and therapeutic for myself, hopefully, and then if it resonates with other people, that's awesome. So that's in short the project. I wound up directing it because I started partnering with this production company, film collective of sorts. We're called Onyx Films, and we're an intersectional female-led production company based in LA, although we have remote members all over the place. I think some in Chicago, some in New York, and it's mainly comprised of either people still in college or people just out of college, recent graduates. So it's sort of ushering in this new wave of filmmakers that are still learning, that maybe we don't have a ton of
resources,
money coming in. Exactly. But we provide that for each other. So at least even if we're not making money off of our projects, we're not going into debt creating them, which
That's
is
cool.
a huge help.
Yeah.
For sure.
What is this collective called? It's called Onyx?
Yes, Onyx Films.
And who can apply to it? Do you have to show proof of schooling, or how does that work exactly?
No proof of schooling. My experience with applying was I had reached out to the founder of it. Her name is Jordan. She's really sweet. We had a mutual friend. So I was like, oh, that's someone I should connect with. Absolutely. Once I come out to LA. So I basically did that. I had reached out through their website. They have a contact form. Essentially, it's a group comprised of women and non-binary folks, typically. So that's really the main underrepresented voices are really like what comprises Onyx. And I had an interview that went really well. I pitched some ideas, and that's how I got brought in. When they asked me what my specialties were or what I wanted to focus on, and I had said screenwriting, and they're like, awesome. Love that. You can provide ideas. We can provide a whole team. And when I had pitched this particular idea to them, Jordan specifically really pushed that I consider directing it. I was originally seeking someone to direct it. And she was like, not that we can't provide that for you, but this is such a personal story. And it's your vision. You know exactly how you want it to go. If you're up for it, this could be like a little challenge. And so I was like, yeah, for sure, I'm on board. And I was a little apprehensive at first, but I wound up finding that I wasn't even stressed on set. There were problems and unforeseen obstacles that would come up. And I was just like, oh, this feels natural. This feels like I'm in my element, something I really got a lot out of, and I think helped build my confidence a lot. Since it had been, I think, like probably a couple years at that point since I'd really helped out on a set. And I got the bug.
Is the Onyx Collective part of the Disney Entertainment Television, or am I looking at something different?
That's something separate, which
Okay.
is very that gets people sometimes.
Yeah.
There's the Onyx Collective that's Disney related. We're
Yeah.
Onyx Films.
Got it. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, whoa. Okay, cool. That sounds like a great resource for people. So I want to make sure that people know that's available because that is,
Mhm.
I feel like, the biggest problem when you are an up and coming filmmaker or at any point of your career, really. And it doesn't just have to be in the very beginning. Sometimes you just don't have a lot of resources. So it's
Yes.
nice to be able to rely on a built-in resource to at least have the opportunity to make something without going to debt. That's a huge thing. So very cool.
Exactly.
Onyxfilms.com is what it is. Yeah. So for
Yes.
everybody, I'm going to take a look at it too because I'm like, they have stuff like this? That's awesome.
It's a great resource. You get built-in peers, collaborators, like a whole team.
Yeah, very, very cool. So you said while you were directing stuff, you didn't feel stressed out or anything and
Mhm.
actually enjoy the process. What do you think you love the most about directing?
I think just a sense of I didn't realize going into it just how much I could divvy up responsibility. I think on a lot of my past projects, I would be like a one-woman show a lot of the time. Just because growing up in a small town, aside from the experiences I had in college, like my hometown itself is very small and not a ton going on with film or the music scene or the comedy scene. So I learned having to wear many hats and just take on a lot of responsibility myself. And I think being in a position where I could be in a team, I could still feel a sense of ownership and feel like this is my story. I wrote this. I'm really like a major force in bringing it to life, but I have all these other people that I can communicate with that are helping with whatever task it may be. They have their respective, they're spearheading it. And I could feel like a weight was taken off a little bit on set. I was like, oh, I've never really experienced this before with my own work. And so to have other people championing the idea, the story was incredible. So I loved that collaborative aspect that comes
Yeah.
with directing. I think sometimes people envision directing as like you have to like maybe it's almost a little bossy or you have to be a little assertive, and though I'm not always the best at being assertive. I don't like stepping on toes. I don't love telling people what to do, but it felt great knowing, oh no, this is a team and I'm just helping lead a team, but everyone knows their part. I was very open to ideas. I loved if someone would come up to me on set and be like, oh, this is super last minute, if we have time for this thing, can we try it this way because of da da da. I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I love that energy. I love bouncing ideas back and forth with
The
people.
collaborations.
And then, of course,
yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then having my assistant director, fortunately, keep us on track.
Myself.
Respect
It's
your
such
ADs, y'all.
an important component.
Yes,
Yeah.
respect your ADs. My question
100%.
then would be, now that you've gone through the process of directing your first thing, what is something you wish you had known going into the process or something you would do differently the next time you get to direct again?
I think I would have a more cohesive shot list. It was simply due to time constraints and the amount of time, or rather the limited amount of time I had with my DP in preparation for filming. I was started putting it together myself, but I think it was still a little chaotic. Here's a rough idea of what we're trying to get on the page of the script. I would definitely have a more cohesive shot list, allow room for flexibility. But I think what would be so, it probably goes without saying, but with a shot list, you can really prioritize. If there's a certain shot we can't get to, what are we going to cut? Every now and then there was a moment that we had to cut that I was like, I would have loved it. It's mostly the little buttons to scenes that had to go. And those were the most comedic parts of the story. And so I think that's why the comedy doesn't translate as much as I had intended. There's still humorous moments, but it feels much more like a drama. And the intention was to be a little more absurd, a little more surrealist by having those comedic moments just thrown in. We do have some of that, not to the extent I would have liked. So I wish that I would have known, okay, you might not get to everything. What can you cut and what do you absolutely need so that everything translates the way you intend it to for the audience?
I think that's the biggest thing because I help AD a lot of first time directors, and I think that's the biggest thing they learn is that you will not be able to get every single thing that you want. And therefore, having that foreshadowing it's better that you can prepare by prioritizing your shot list and knowing what you have to have in order for your story to make sense. And so,
Exactly.
yes, and I think as you go into it and you get to direct more or be a part of more projects, I think everybody learns that fix it and pre, right? So it's realizing that is probably the most important aspect of the filmmaking process that often gets overlooked. Everybody just cares about being on set because it's the sexiest part. It's the part you get on behind the scenes pictures and all that stuff. But they don't realize that only way for that part to run smoothly or have any semblance of order is spending a lot of time in the non-sexy part, writing out your shot list, planning, and everything. And I think there is a misconception from first-time directors that, oh, if I do shot list, then things aren't going to be organic, and I won't, I don't know, have the film won't feel like it flows. That's all bullshit, I'm sorry to say, as a first AD, because the thing is,
It's true.
the shot list isn't something that you have to stick with. What it is at least gives you a mental preparation that you've worked through everything in your head and it's visually someplace where in a time of craziness and absolute chaos, because time is running out, the sun is going down, and you are going to go over, that you can literally point to something and say, we need to get this without having to think about it. Because there will come times during your set where you really cannot think anymore. And you have to trust that your homework will cover your ass. And that is the reason why these shot lists are so important. It doesn't mean when you do the shot list, you can't shoot anything else. You can't think on the fly. It, in fact, gives you more flexibility. And I like that you pointed that out, Hannah, is that by doing your homework, you gain the privilege to be flexible, to play on the day, to do something different from what you planned because you're covered and therefore you have this extra time you can go play. But when you don't do that homework, you just cannot know for sure that you have covered your ass until you're in post and you go, oh shit, I should have shot these 5 other shots.
And it helps every other department too, right? Like with those shot lists and all that, and making sure that like you even have that time to just be creative, at least for the directors and the DPs and stuff. But yeah, shot lists are always, because nothing's worse than like being in a different department and you go, wait, are we moving on? Are we still here? What's going on? And then I look at the first AD and the first AD is like,
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know, dude. It's night and we got to go home. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's what a crazy situation. So you have your first, so this is the first thing you've ever directed, right? And and it must feel like a completely different like beast when you are essentially the head honcho as opposed to just, oh, I'm here on set, I'm helping out. The amount of responsibility that you have probably has, did it feel like you were expecting this, or did it feel like it just came at you at a moment's notice and you're like, oh shit, I'm the manager. So, I'm making decisions.
I was actually expecting it a bit, just because I had a team of producers I was working with through all of pre-production, which was like months and months. But I found myself naturally wanting to not necessarily take over, but there were certain things that they feel like, we can handle this.
Not
like
your
you
department.
can just focus on. Yeah. I'd be like, no, it's okay, I got it. I'm like doing all this other stuff that they're like, leave a task for us. So I think I was already in this mode of, I only have so much time, because I was acting in it as well, which was maybe to my detriment, but I can touch on that later. And I had my parents fly in from Pennsylvania playing themselves in the film.
Oh, and wow. Okay.
It was a really cool, special experience. It was so funny because it was my mom's first time in LA. It was her first time on a plane in like decades.
Aww,
and we could have made more of a trip out of it. And I was like, I have a job to do.
Oh, we're making a
sorry,
movie,
mom and dad.
Dude. Yeah.
We're making a movie. We've got like this place booked for 4 days. That's all we have. No more, no less. And so I was I like lived and breathed this thing for like months. So I was like ready to go. And so I was pleasantly surprised that when I did get to set, I realized some things like could fall off my shoulders, and I'd be like, oh, this is something for my AD to work on, or this is something for the DP. And oh, okay, cool. So it was almost, it wasn't less responsibility than I thought, but I felt like, but I had the support behind me to make it really manageable. And I was just like, I'm not even going to stress out, because at the end of the day, I was like, I don't know how we're going to get it done. I just know that we have to. And so I was like, any problem that would come up, I'd be like, no, we're going to figure it out. We've got no other option.
You just have to move with the flow of time and how it all lays out. But well, because at least like it gives you a bit of a breathing room to focus on the acting and make you like concentrate on those things that like, so you can deliver as best as you possibly can. Was that like hard switching hats like that? It just be like, you're in front of the camera now and you're directing it in front of the camera when it's supposed to be behind the camera. That must be it
was definitely strange.
Yeah.
For sure. I think it felt more natural as it went on, and I think it even shows in the film. One of my personal gripes, but it is what it is. The very first scene in the entire film was the first one we shot, and the last scene was the last one we shot, ironically. And you can just tell at least I feel my performance is so much better by the last scene. And it's like the first scene, like we're off to a rocky start because I don't quite know. I'm trying to my character's very anxious, and so I have her looking around a lot. Half the time it almost looks like I'm looking into the camera, but I'm not. I'm trying to look past it, but it's like I wasn't behind the camera to tell myself, no, don't do that. That looks weird, that looks unnatural. And I started getting the hang of it as I'd watch playback throughout the coming days of filming, so that by the time we got to that last scene, which was the most important one, so I was like, okay, at least that one turned out all right. But I definitely had to find my footing a bit. I think it's tricky because I want to keep directing, but I want to keep performing. I'm like, I'll just write roles for myself.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, I'm gonna need a co-director or something.
So yeah, how was that experience directing and acting at the same time? And is it something that you want to continue to do that way, or do you feel like you bit off more than you could chew, or what did you realize from the experience doing both?
I think it's something I could continue. I think it depends on the project. If it's a really personal story, such as this one, I think it's something that I would want to direct and be in. I think depending on the projects moving forward, I might just have to set aside my want to my inner theater kid that always wanted to be a star on the Disney Channel. It's like, now's my chance.
Right.
I have to set that aside a little bit sometimes in order to just really experience directing behind the camera. I think that will present a whole other side of directing to me that I didn't fully experience because I was just constantly back and forth. And I think fully being behind the camera would be an interesting and very worthwhile experience. And I think I absolutely should do that. But yeah, I think it really all depends on the story. And I think having a co-director, that's a role that I feel like I don't see that often. And I love seeing directing duos. I do love it whenever I do come across it. Because I'm like, oh, that's awesome. You have these two people that are on the same page, but at the same time might bring different ideas to the table. I'm a very big fan of the Daniels, who directed Everything Everywhere All at Once.
All at once, yeah.
And they directed some of my favorite music videos too, actually. And they're Emerson alum, which I did not know until after the film won the Oscar for Best Picture. And I was like, oh, wow, okay.
Nice Emerson W
Emerson,
for you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, I knew that. But that's something I'm very open to, and I'd love to meet other directors, especially people at my very beginner level that are open to growing together and learning together. And not that we can't do our separate things, but that idea is very intriguing to me. I think it'd be nice to have a directing partner.
Cool. But if you, I know this is a terrible question, but if you had to choose,
hold on, my doorbell just rang. Sorry, guys. I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
If you had to choose, would you say you are a actor that directs, or would you say you're a director who acts?
Oh,
if you had to pick one.
I think I'd probably at this point say director who acts.
So
until I'm in more
priority
projects. is directing. And until I'm in more projects that are like outside of my own, if I'm like cast in something else that's someone else's, then it might shift. But for now, I have to go with director who acts.
Do you have any ideas what you want to do next?
Yes, I have a short in the works. Our timeline was shifted a little bit just due to scheduling conflicts, which is totally fine. But I have a new short written. I have the location already in mind. It's just a matter of coordinating with my DP and makeup artist. This one is going to be, it's a horror comedy.
Okay.
A little less ambitious than my first short in that it's much shorter, but more ambitious in other ways, where I am a big horror fan, but one thing that I've always struggled with is like really grotesque, like gore and body horror.
I'm not a big fan of that either.
Try to appreciate it.
It's just effects. It's just, corn syrup.
Right, exactly. I'm like, you could, half of it's probably like edible, like, you know.
Most of it.
It's so, it's just very hard it's hard for me to stomach, but it's something that I want to, a challenge for myself, where I wrote something that is more in the lines of body horror. And I think, and this is another one that I would direct, but also ideally star in.
Okay.
And it's something it's so short that I think it's doable, but it's a very small cast. It's just like a handful of extras, and there's no dialogue. So there's also not going to be a sound team, at least on set. And it'll mostly be in post, that the sound will be really important. But so that just it streamlines everything. It's just this really, because I think directing it, that'll help me continue to grow as a director, but also seeing myself, I think, depict it in this certain way will help maybe desensitize a little bit and be like, oh, okay, like it looks goofy because it's me. And so maybe seeing body horror in other films and shows will be less unnerving, because it's like, oh, I've been there. I've been the one with the makeup on, like in that costume.
Right.
So oh, okay, I can better appreciate it. I can better understand what all goes into it. Because I'm just on a horror kick right now. Maybe it's because Halloween's
I'm not either. And a big issue for me is also the grossness or the gore and everything. I personally can't. It's weird because I don't like watching it. However, I'm okay being on the other end and making it. And I think it's because when you're in it, you realize how fake everything is, or that it's actually legitimately a movie. But I think like when I'm watching it, I know that the way I've explained it to people is that I have a hypersensitive mind in a very bad mood after watching it, because I don't like human beings doing terrible things to other human beings, and then it just ruins my day. So I don't really get. Yeah, I know, it's really weird. I just get really depressed. I'm like, man, people suck. And
I walk out of a horror film. Yeah, I walk out of a horror film like, that was so fun.
No, I don't. I walk out of it being very depressed, being like, people suck. Yeah, people suck, and I don't like humanity right now. That's how. Yeah, that's how I get out of horror films, which is I think the polar opposite of what you're supposed to be experiencing when you're watching a horror film.
It's like, I watch it like a friend of the show, Roxy, a roommate of Christine's. We talk about horror films a lot, and we agree. We see it like analytically almost. It's like from a very young age, I've always like wonders like, how do they do that effect, or like a specific like blood squirt that just comes out of like bodies and stuff, like squibs specifically, but even like big set pieces and whatnot. It might be because of my art department brain, but yeah, I just like I'm strictly focused on these things. I'm like, how'd you do it? I need to know everything, and it just always puts me in like a like. And I didn't think about it, because if you're probably right, Christine, most people who would watch like horror films will probably be like, yeah, that ruined my week. I'm never going to look at ghosts the same ever again, or zombies. Forget that. I don't know why. I enjoy the shit out of it. But I mean, at least
a lot of people do. That is why it's still one of the top selling genres internationally, domestically.
Yeah.
It's just horror translates so well between cultures still. Which is different
it's like
from
the closest thing to like a
everything.
thrilling experience. That's not like almost like that adrenaline rush. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm making stuff up, but like jumping out of a plane, like that moment before you jump, you're just like, and then you just, but it's it's safe. You're just in the confines of your home or the movie theater, and you watch it with strangers. It's a good time.
You're like me, lost in your own thoughts and freaked out.
Or you're Christine having
Not
an
in a happy
existential
mindset.
crisis.
Correct. So no horror films for this one.
But it's Halloween
Literally
season.
have
You're going to watch at
existential.
least a couple more. And you're going to be doing a horror.
I
season.
have to. I still see. I haven't watched Silence of the Lambs yet. I know,
It's
because
not
I'm
even
stressed
like
out.
horror, though. It's more like
I'm
psychological.
like psyching myself up to watch that film, and then
Back to that
heard
film,
that
Christine, your mind is going to melt. It's a phenomenal film. Trust me when I say it. You're gonna love that movie. I think you will.
yeah. So there's that, and then the other one is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Freddy Krueger.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's fun slasher.
Yeah, so I'm going to psych myself up to see how excited I am to watch it. I'm gonna try. Gotta do a little bit of research. It's so weird because I'm in the previous episode. I was talking to Adam. I'm supposed to direct a slasher film, and I can't watch slasher films.
Exactly. You have to do research. Are you, by any chance, whenever you do watch a horror film, do you like to read the Wikipedia page ahead of time to just know the major plot points, to know when to cover your eyes?
Oh,
I may or may
that's
not
a good idea. Maybe I need to do that.
Oh, so you just know? Okay. Because at first I was like,
Yes,
how dare you? But then
that
I'm like,
sounds
oh, to preemptively, I get it.
Yes. Or
Yeah.
rather,
To make sure that you're not. That's a great idea. Maybe I should try that.
or actually, there's even, you know what, I can't remember the name, but I'll find it and I'll share it with you. There's a site where, or you might even be familiar with this probably. It's a site that will break down, at about 50 minutes in, someone gets like beat to death. And it lists out like why movies are rated the way they are. So if you're bringing like your kids, or if you're squeamish, it's like, it says if there's swearing, it says if there's nudity, drug usage. It's
Cool.
really
No, I've
breaking
never
down.
heard of this.
I never heard of
at
that.
all.
Which that one's even better because it won't spoil the entire thing. So nix what I said about Wikipedia, that'll spoil. That's maybe a little too far.
Yeah, it spoils everything. Yeah.
I know. Okay, at about the halfway part, I should like, I dropped something. Oh, I just missed someone's head get bashed in. Oh well.
Unless it's a good
gist,
movie.
you know.
Unless it's like a good movie and you're locked in and you forget that like at the 45-minute mark someone's head gets chopped off or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
no bueno.
Saw is just a fun movie. It's just fun.
Couldn't do Poltergeist.
Poltergeist
Isn't that
is
silly?
great.
Poltergeist?
I don't even think it's a horror film, to be honest.
It is a horror film. The clown.
Really?
Yeah.
The clown is fucked up. The tree is really messed up. But yeah, everything.
No.
Which those are real.
Apparently
skeletons.
they're not. Apparently it's been debunked. Yeah. So somebody I watched a horror documentary about it, and an art department dude, a set dresser, a set decorator who I think worked on the same production company as Poltergeist. And he said, no, it's like there's no way, shape, or form that the art department would exhume graves to put in real, but it just looks crazy good. And you can buy a skeleton.
It looks so real. I hate it.
I didn't know this.
So
You can
much.
actually buy a skeleton on a medical website, and it's pretty cheap, actually, $75 for a full skeleton thing.
A real person.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, you could get a full-scale skeleton thing for $75 in like a medical website. And you can they just dressed it up like gross, like with mud and peeling flesh and all that. Yeah, like it's pretty wild. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I really fell for that. I read on
Me too.
my real skeletons.
My entire childhood, when I watched that when I was like 14 years old, every single one of my friends those are real graves, and I'm like, no way, what? And so for years, until I watched this documentary, and the guy's like, no, this art department dude, that's not real.
Absolutely not.
Are you out of your mind? No.
That is a relief then, because at first I was disappointed to hear that, and then I was like, oh wait, no, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah. But it is fun though to have that little
myth.
that myth in the behind the scenes, and somebody like Wizard of Oz is another great one, right? Of people who are just dying on that set and stuff like that. All those conspiracies are insanely crazy.
Yeah. I actually just saw a Twitter thread that was it's totally for engagement bait, but it was about all the horrific stuff behind the scenes of Wizard of Oz. And some of them I was like, okay, it sounds a little believable, but I'm not sure. And as I kept scrolling, I was like, wait, there's no way.
Yeah, there's a few made up stuff a lot of times. And it sucks too because Twitter used to be like a great place where it would give you like great behind the scenes stuff, but like most filmmakers are not even on Twitter anymore because Twitter, it's
I've never been on Twitter. I tried for a little bit, and I was like, this yeah.
God bless you.
It's better that way.
It is
really
so much
better that way.
I've been on Twitter for years, and I've seen like the whole time. I've started my Twitter account when I was in high school. So I seen like the whole era of Twitter going up and down, and now it's just unusable.
X. Sorry, it's X now.
Or whatever. Who cares? I still call it Twitter. But yeah, that's interesting. I've always loved horror, but yeah, it from a very young age, it's especially terrifying for children. But I would love to watch more horror films with you, Christine, because I feel like it would be so much fun to just show you Evil Dead or something.
To see me have an existential crisis.
I would love to watch The Shining with you, or The
I really haven't watched Shining.
Shining's not bad.
I'm scared.
But it's not bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a weird film, but like, yeah.
It is weird. It's a lot more tame because I didn't watch The Shining, I think, until I was maybe 19 or 20. And I had all these like expectations going into it. And then I was like, oh, this is a slow burn. Like,
it's just weird.
And then there were spooky things. Yeah, but I was like, it's like absurdist.
Yeah, it's just exactly.
I can't.
Christine, no scary.
No way. No scary movies. Yeah. But if I go on a date with something like, I love scary music, we're done. Yeah.
Stop.
That's it.
Date's over. Yeah.
We're a deal breaker there. Can't do scary movies.
That's so funny. That's hilarious.
It's so sad. Maybe like a little last conclusion question would be for anybody who is in the position you were, Hannah, of trying to make their first film and directing and stuff. What are some words of wisdom now that you've gone through the process for those who are in the process of doing their first film or wanting to?
Oh, I would say to really lean into the collaborative nature of it all. If you have a team that's working with you, like that's such an important thing. And if you have people, especially taking on, I think, certain roles as like producers, or even if it's not, in my case, my producers couldn't fund the project themselves, but they helped me figure out what makes for effective crowdfunding and marketing, campaigning, that sort of thing, being your own cheerleader. They helped with that. They helped with location scouting, like all these things that I previously did not have experience with. Make sure you are making a point to learn from everyone that you're working with. Because even if they're still learning themselves, it's like you're not going into it knowing every single thing. Be open. There are surprisingly cost-effective ways to bring your film to life, which is incredibly important. I know sometimes you feel like you're at a crossroads because you don't want to feel like you're compromising any portions of your ideas. And it's like, you don't necessarily have to, but there are doable ways to do this. It can be feasible. And I think that's smart, especially
specific ideas where it happened on your set where you had to pivot or anything that made something more feasible.
Yes, for sure. There were some of the biggest things with my set was figuring out, bringing on people that maybe had their own equipment was incredibly helpful. For one thing, because at first I was like in talks with some people that, because it's hard, you never want to you figure out who's the best fit for you, and it's not about being exclusionary towards anyone, but figuring out how to maximize what you do have, pulling together your collective resources and efforts, and people that are all on the same page of this is a passion project at this point. It's so micro budget, but we care enough about it that we want to see it come to life. So figuring out, what each person could provide, what of my own things I could provide, if any. As far as location scouting, having options and knowing that, okay, here's maybe the idealized version of where you want to shoot, but let's just double check Gigster or Peerspace. Let's see if there's any cheaper alternatives. I actually wound up filming most of the film at an Airbnb because that wound up being cheaper than I checked in with the host. Was like, are we allowed to film here? I was like, yeah, go for it. Oh. So we wound up doing that because then we could house some of the cast and crew there when we weren't filming. And so that was really awesome. and it's like in some situations you just might not be able to do that, but it's like where you can try to do that. Oh, let's see, I'm trying to think if there are other specifics. I think because it was really important to me to not be to be as least wasteful as possible. So if there were props that I got that I wound up not using, either returning them or giving them to like a prop house, giving it to some other people that can get use out of it. Or if I can get my money back because I didn't use it, that's also great. But
yeah,
but,
that's also an option.
at least sharing it, right? But at least sharing it, and making sure like you're for all the help that you're being given, giving that back. That was very crucial to me, and really just talking through my ideas with people and hearing alternatives because I might have it in my head what I wanted to do. Oh, bless you.
Thank you. Sorry.
For sure, no, all good. I'm allergic to something. I don't know what it is, but it's miraculous. I haven't sneezed at all.
I'm a very loud. I'm my dad's child. I'm a very loud sneeze. I'm Moroccan, so Moroccans are just like any Middle Eastern is just like the loudest sonic boom of a sneeze. Sorry, go ahead, Hannah. I didn't mean to steal your.
But yeah, I find that really with collaborating, there will be things that you don't foresee that people will be like, oh, in a past experience, I did XYZ and that either saved time or saved money or just made me feel more prepared going into it. So it just openness, flexibility, because as much as you can prepare, there can and will be things that go wrong.
Yes.
And it's not the end of the world. You just got to make do. There was an entire scene that was going to be outside and it looks like we were filming in near Big Bear Lake and it looked like a storm was coming and we're like, that's not good. But we found a workaround the morning of, and that was awesome. And it wasn't just me alone thinking, oh, let's do this instead. I had 3-4 people that I was just bouncing ideas off of. I'm like, what can we actually do to still get the gist across still? Because it was a really pivotal scene, and I was so scared to make any changes to it. And we've wound up finding a solution that, we've had a solution that I think even maybe a little better than what the original was intended to be. That openness, just being willing to learn and taking all that education with you on the next project. Because a way I also had to look at it was, okay, whatever I didn't entirely get right this time around, or elements that I felt like I had to compromise because I had to save money on, then that's all going toward whatever your next endeavor will be. So just know it's not going to be perfect right out the gate, but it's not supposed to be. You're always getting better the more you do it. You're always improving. You'll get bigger budgets. You'll get bigger teams. That just comes with time and experience, but just keep working at it and you'll get there. And then but even then, at a certain point, I think even the biggest directors in the world still look back at their films and be like, oh, that wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like that scene was supposed to be different.
Exactly. I like that. I like that as a nice way to end our podcast because I think you hit on multiple things. I think the biggest thing is, yes, flexibility, but learning from everybody else's experience, I think, is so invaluable. And that is really why we have this podcast is of Get Reelisms, realizing that, hey, there's so much we can learn from each other, what not to do, or, hey, we did this, don't, let's do this type thing. And there's so much stuff that you just don't get learning like in school or in class because it's such a learn by doing history. So
exactly.
Yes.
With a ton of mistakes along the way.
But yeah, thank you, Hannah, for sharing your experience. And hopefully somebody out there will be inspired by what you went through and learn that sometimes a storm is going to come fuck things up and you just have to pivot.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful speaking with you both.
Of course.
Yeah,
we love talking to filmmakers, especially when it comes to short films. We have a very safe space for filmmakers of all kinds, of course.
Awesome.
But I think that we're taking this plane for a landing, Christine. You know what
we
it is,
are.
ladies and gentlemen. GetReelisms.com.
Get Reelisms Podcast.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yes.
Get books, get tees like those, what Christine's wearing, get hats like these.
Hats. Yes.
We're just, it's just, Get Reelisms is an empire at this point. You know what I mean? And we're still doing this as a free podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Hannah, for participating. We love having you here. Yes. And thank you guys so much. Yeah. I saw the comments. Gilbert Baker Film Fest, thank you so much for chiming in. I got one of your comments pinned because she said it's a team sport when it comes to filmmaking. I couldn't agree more.
It really
filmmaking is a freaking team sport. We know that for a fact.
It is. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Tune in next week.
Please share, please subscribe, go on to your YouTube or whatever podcast platform you're on and hit the follow button. That helps us spread the word and tell people about it. This is a podcast to inspire, and check out getreelisms.com when you're at it as well.
All right.
Yay.
Thank you so much, guys.
Heck yeah.
Appreciate it.
Make movies.
Thank you.